Hello, community. I am Catherine Jura, a community health educator and your host for this podcast. I created Hello Community in response to the continuing epidemic of social isolation and loneliness being reported across the US and the world. Everyone experiences loneliness at some points in their lives, but it's when it becomes prolonged that it affects our physical and mental health. It can make chronic illnesses worse, and it can even lead to early death. So I invite guests to come and share their stories, both personal and professional, of how they moved from isolation and loneliness to connection and community. My hope is that you will hear some ideas that can help you create the life of connection and community that you so desire. So I'd like to introduce you to my guest today, Tina Fitzgerald from Syracuse, New York. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm so pleased to be here.
Oh, so happy to have you. And Shamika Andrews, one of our other guests, suggested that Tina and I meet and that she might be a great guest for the podcast. And we have spent hours talking with each other. And what really strikes me about Tina is not only your joy, Tina, but following a traumatic experience in your life, you went into isolation. And your story is going to share, the story you're going to share is about how you moved from that place to a life so full of joy, so full of people and activities. At one point, you showed me your calendar, and every single day of every single week of that month was filled. Now, that didn't happen overnight, but that's your story of how you moved from isolation to a life just full to the brim of things that you love. And so our guests are going to get to learn, how'd you do it? How did you do that? And your feelings along the way. So how about we just briefly start with what took you into that isolation space?
Okay, my husband and I had been married, let's see, when he passed, it was almost 30 years. And that was almost 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And so we'd been together a long time. And he
Mhm.
had been ill for about 7 or 8 years. And I became not really his primary caregiver because of my physical disabilities and his, but I became the supervisor of the primary caregivers. I was very strict about how I was cared because I didn't want any mistakes. I didn't want to lose the one person in my life who I finally met who made me feel like I was important, that I didn't have to, that ableism thing. I didn't have to be better than anybody else. The me that I was just perfect with all my quirky quirks. He just accepted that and loved me exactly where I was, loved me through getting a master's degree, loved me through the frustrations of some chronic illnesses that I went through. And I was dedicated to doing the same to him when he became ill.
And so you had not only the connection of a long, 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 long-term marriage, but then when he became ill, you also became his caregiver, one of his caregivers. So your connection was profound. And then when he passed, what happened that took you into this place of isolation?
Well, it was a series of losses. It was really, really bad. Um, I had lost my mother the year before, and we were just rebuilding our relationship. And then Rick became critical, and I had to start making critical decisions. And I just kept thinking, oh, your brain, your mind just goes crazy. Am I being selfish? Am I giving up before I've tried everything? All of these things scatter through your mind. And really, after he passed, that's what happened. My brain was still trying to process, did you pull him off life support before you really had to?
Mm.
Or did you make him sit on life support too long? What, I was going 10 rounds with myself, and I think I fought harder than Tyson.
So,
And I became isolated because I was beating myself up so bad that I couldn't focus on anything else.
now you did mention to me the one thing that you did do was go to church. And that
My
was,
my church is an amazing non-denominational group of people who just love Jesus Christ.
mhm.
We love Jesus, we love each other, we know our walk in life is to love and serve as he would if he was here today. So and I love to sing at church. And at the time I was working with the music, and it was the only thing that I could get up and be happy about. I would get up every Sunday morning, be like, time to go to church and sing, time to go be with my friends, time to dance, time to sing, time to eat some snacks.
So there was
We have a
something about,
very liberal church.
so there was something about that group in the entire world for you that was, you could do that. You could do that. And then you came home and spent the rest of the time isolated. So, because that was the first step. What was the next step that started to move you out of that place of isolation?
Well, then we got something called COVID,
Mm,
and everybody went into isolation. So, I felt like isolation was kind of normal. And
mhm.
then I started getting, now all through this time, I'm getting phone calls from people at church. Do you need us to bring you something to eat? Are you up to cooking? Um, Come with me. Let's go to this prayer meeting. Let's do this, let's do that. And I would go to the church things. I would go to prayer meetings, I would go to
Ah,
Bible studies. That was about it. It was the church thing. I never stepped outside of church. But then when we were all locked down, we started having
may I
drinks.
ask a question? May I add something before we move on to
Sure.
this next important piece? So it's almost like that community that you had built at church was almost like um there in place. It was an established connection that really saved you, that was there as your life was dramatically changing. That seems like an important point about having in place connections, because we don't know what's coming in life. And that seems like an important point. Like, we all need and want connection and community,
Mhm.
but we all really need and we really need connection and community because we don't know what's coming,
You
right?
don't. You don't
So,
know what's around the next corner.
yes. Okay, so you were about to say, let's
Okay. So we're in COVID, and everybody, my pastor and a bunch of other people have Zoom accounts. I don't have a Zoom account, but they say we want to do maybe a little Bible study, maybe a lot of conversation, dinner and drinks. You make your dinner, we'll make our dinner, and we'll everybody set your computer or your phone or your tablet in the middle of your table, and let's have a dinner party. Let me tell you, they were hysterical. But here I am. I'm in my jammies.
Mhm.
Nobody cared. Not a person cared. We were all sitting around talking about all the food we were cooking, all of this we were doing because we were locked down. And a lot of people were laid off because the jobs that they had were not. So we were like each other's social outlets. So we started doing these a couple times a month, and they were great. And I was just happy because I didn't have to go anywhere and I could sit on these things for an hour, 2 hours, whatever. You know, I got to choose the interaction and the level
Mm.
of interaction. So we did that. And then I have a very wonderful, well, he's my boss now, but he was at that point, he'd been my boss before. And he called me up and he said, Tina, they're looking for self-advocates to go do this sexuality project. Somehow I think a sexuality project would be right up your alley because when my husband and I worked for him, we did a lot of stuff on relationships, on people with disabilities being married to each other. And so he goes, come on, they pay $50 every time you go to a meeting. And so, Tina, $50. That might be enough um, incentive. So I interviewed, I got accepted, and I worked for 2 years on something with Planned Parenthood and an agency called YAI.
One thing we haven't done, I don't believe that we have explained what SANYS is. We've mentioned it. SANYS stands for
Yes,
Self-Advocacy Association of New York State.
yes.
And that's who you were doing this program through. And you had worked there previously, and he's the person that reached out to you and said, hey, you want to do a little bit of something?
Yeah. And then I got involved with that. And then he calls me up again.
Hmm.
He says, hey, Tina, we're working with a place called Elevatus Training to do more training for self-advocates on sexuality. You're doing the shine thing. That's winding up. Why don't you jump on board with us and you can be a trainer? So I jump on board and become a trainer. And then he just keeps dangling these little carrots, like things I'm interested in front of my nose. And the next thing I know, I'm working 10 hours a week as a field assistant. And then he goes, oh, you're so helpful. We're jumping you to 25 hours a week. And I'm like, oh, I'm 62. Shouldn't I be retiring? And he goes, up to you. What do you feel like? I said, I don't feel like retiring. Because I feel like retiring would be like going back to that dark place,
Mm-hmm.
that it could be a very dark place if I'm not busy. So over this time period, I've gotten involved with Lions Club International. Um, I'm very active with my Lions Club collecting glasses to send overseas. Um, on July 1st, I will become their district governor for the New York district running from the Canadian border all the way to the Pennsylvania border. Um, I've been active in leadership training, in everything that they do, all of their causes, diabetes, hunger, blindness, hearing impairment. I've been out collecting hearing aids to be restored to give to people who can't afford them. I've been involved in tons and tons and tons of different things.
So that's a big jump. So was this process so slow that when, going from church on Sundays to doing a few activities with church, that was your safe space. That was it, period. And but that was evolving some. And then was it each time you made a new step, what do you remember what was happening inside of yourself?
Well,
Because that is what is so hard for people is making a step.
Well, I got into the first steps and I was like, things to do. And then, I joined the Lions Club after COVID ended. I've been a Lion for about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I jumped into that head first because I went to this meeting to talk about Sannies and to talk about, people learning to speak up for themselves and, you know, voicing the lives that they wanted to have. And I started hearing about what they did,
Ah.
about fighting food insecurity, about educating people how to prevent diabetes, about preventable blindness, about doing eye screenings for small children, and sometimes finding a tumor on their optic nerve with our eye screeners. You know,
So it
it
intrigued
got to
you.
the inside of me,
Ah.
which overrode the brain that said, too peoply, very scary, very scary, too peoply. And then I stopped focusing on people being around me and I started focusing on, I don't want to say tasks, missions,
Yeah. Purpose?
m- purpose.
Purpose.
My mission to teach all people with disabilities about having a fulfilled life that includes relationships and sexuality. My mission to keep people from being disabled by things that they could prevent, by
Mm,
assisting those that were already disabled, by working on food insecurity. I took everything that I learned in my life and I started turning it into missions. And I'm a
missions
very
meaning missions meaning ministry or
purpose
missions meaning purpose. Okay.
purpose, like
Yep.
things I'm going to try to prevent other people from going through. So I get out of my own head
Mm-hmm. Really
and I
important.
start getting into the community again. And I'm just so happy to be like with like-minded people. And I
Mm,
start meeting people like at the food pantry, the patrons of the food pantry. I call them all customers. Um, they're like, no, I'm a client. I said, no, you're a customer.
such
And I'm
respect. It was a project that really, you didn't use the word heart, but you said something like, I moved from here to here.
yeah.
Was here to here like opening your heart a bit?
I've always had a big heart.
Mm-hmm.
Big heart. I'm a big old squishy softy. Um, but when Rick passed, I started living in my head
Mm-hmm.
and I started like seriously criticizing myself like other people had in the past,
Mm-hmm.
saying I wasn't right, I wasn't enough, I didn't do. And when after connecting with people again and people giving me the positive feedback I always got from my husband
Mm,
and other people, but getting that feedback again, that feedback got louder than the voices.
mm. So
And
your
when the,
community, your connections were boosting you while you were boosting them.
yep. And um, I've been involved in a lot of things, I tell everybody I'm a dibble dabbler. I go over here, I do this, I go over here, I do that. But my heart of hearts lays in several communities. It lays in the community of disability. I don't care what kind of disability it is. If you have a disability, I want to use my life, my experience to lift you up and help you get to climb some of the mountains I've climbed.
Mm,
And because of being a child and being food insecure and having all those kinds of things, I really have a drive to try to help
So much of your life experiences, both as a person with a disability, we haven't talked about that. Do you want to share what your disability is?
Sure, I have cerebral palsy. I don't have a lot of intellectual issues, but I have a lot of physical issues. I find I have different ways of thinking, and that's kind of like a little thing I'm known for. If you want to figure something out and you don't want to put any parameters on how you solve it, ask Tina because she'll come up with some wacky wild idea that'll work. Because we might be able to pair it with something else and make it work.
So, if you were to say the movement from the significant loss, church was there, it was already established in your life as a place of support and joy, and that was there for you. And then slowly but surely you added in your own comfort zone the the dinner Zooms. That felt safe. And then it feels like you were always, sounds like you were always aware of, does this feel safe to me? Yes,
Yes.
then you did it. No, you didn't do it.
And some things became safe later
Interesting.
because it was too big of a step. Like if you
Ah.
would have offered me Zoom meetings to make some money like at the beginning, I couldn't have done that. Nope, 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 nope.
So
And
little steps.
it
So, so, and it does sounds like the steps have gotten bigger now.
oh yeah. I have been offered a position which I can't really go into a whole lot of detail about because it hasn't been announced, but I am taking a major leadership position working with people with disabilities. And there has never been a person with a disability in this kind of leadership position.
Congratulations. Wow.
I'm being totally supported. Um, totally told that when I step out, when this person retires, and I step out into that position, that it is their hope that I use my skills and my creativity to because this position there's still a lot of rebuilding to do post COVID. um there's still a lot of face-to-face things people don't do anymore, and they're hoping that I can pull people back in and get the participation numbers up with my new ideas
Hmm.
and my enthusiasm.
Yeah, and that
Because
that
I'm full of enthusiasm and full of ideas.
mhm.
And you know what? There's no such thing as failure because when an idea doesn't work and it kind of goes, it's you learn something and you try again. It's when you stop trying, it starts to look like failure.
Wow, that was profound. Can you say that again? Can you say that
Okay,
again?
there's no such thing as failure because as long as you keep trying, it's not failure. It's only failure when you stop. When you stop trying, you stop caring.
When you
And I
stopped,
think, sort of, when you stop trying, you stop caring about it. So, me trying to work harder in the disability community, if I just stopped tomorrow and said, nope, I'm not going to work anymore, to me, that's I've stopped caring about my people because we all
mm,
talk about, diverse communities. I represent the disability community. I don't have to represent it as a perfect person. I don't
mm,
have to get everything right the first time, but I have to keep caring about my community.
mm.
And I think that's what your podcast is all about. Hello,
It is.
community. Hello, community. We care about you.
Yes, we care
And
about
we're
you.
not, and we're not, and we're not forgetting you, and we're not giving up on you.
No, indeed. Hmm. So, and if you were to think back over our conversation today and your life, is there anything in there to help our listeners and our viewers who may be in a place of prolonged loneliness, like you were, and getting those, getting moving?
Baby steps, baby steps. And it's okay if something makes you, um, I work sometimes with victims of domestic abuse
Hmm.
because it's very high in the disability community.
Hmm.
And I tell them when you get that yuck feeling, it's okay to step back. So you might not be getting a yuck feeling because somebody's going to try to hurt you, but you might get a yuck feeling like it's too many people, it's too much noise, it's too much. It's okay to pull your foot back
It's
and say, I'll try
honoring.
again later.
It's not, it's like it's honoring ourselves. Honoring what I hear from your story is honoring where you were 9 years ago, and you did only what you were ready to when you were ready to do it, in the amount that you were ready to do it. And as you have said to me previously, when you took a little step forward, people took giant steps back towards you. I thought that was also beautiful. And so then you made some more little steps, and some more people came in, but you were always monitoring whether this was safe for you or not. And now you're just living this life that fills your calendar from, the beginning of
From
the month
dusk
to
till
the end of it,
dawn.
from dusk till dawn, and first of the month to last of the month. So, moving from your head to your heart, honoring the place you were at, taking small steps, always monitoring. And now sounds like you're living the life you want to live.
I am. And I'll live that life for as long as it lets me. I
Mm-hmm.
have people ask me, well, how long are you going to stay in your job? I said, till I can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be me, laid up in the bed having surgery with this iPad in front of me, meeting with everybody and talking to everybody and directing everybody's steps and like giving them the marching orders.
Because you're not
And
giving.
I was told the other day at the pantry, I have a nickname. They call me Tina Sparkle
Oh,
because they
nice.
said I spread sparkle all over the pantry.
Oh, that's a beautiful place to end also. Um, because it's a testament to trying, bringing who you, and that sounds like that's who you've always been. And of course, in any great tragedy, we lose a lot of who we are. And then would you say that now you're back to your sparkle?
I found my sparkles.
Bravo. Thank you so much for being here today with us. I really appreciate
I
it.
have so enjoyed it. So enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. And to our viewers and our listeners, if you would like more information on the subject of moving from loneliness and isolation to connection and community, do check out our show notes. There's so much good information in there. Project Unlonely is an interactive website with short films and a creativity hub and lots of information. You'll find our link tree in the show notes, which is with one click, it'll show you where all our platforms are, including our Facebook page. And we're really excited about our Facebook page because it can keep us connected with you in between podcasts. Podcasts from taping to publication can be 1 to 2 months. So our Facebook page is there to put up articles and YouTube shorts, and the episodes will be there, resources that come up in the interim. So that link tree in the show notes will take you right to all the platforms and our Facebook page. And if you found today helpful, please share this episode with others so that together we can support each other to lives of community and connection. Till next time.
The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical or mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare professional or mental health provider for any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or mental health concern.